As the world and about 95% of the people I interact with seem to all be heading in the wrong direction, following the herd mentality, it just keeps me always thinking about how many other things are there that we have gotten wrong and that they are just projecting on us wrong, and just people are believing and gobbling up to in order to create profits for some sick people. And I do mean sick. So that's in a nutshell what's going on, but I've been beginning to question and have been questioning for a long time actually germ theory. Even when I was young, when I was about 2, I hated Band-Aids, never wore a Band-Aid my entire life, no matter how big the cut. I hate them. And from that, I've always kind of learned to never really trust the healing establishment that's been forced upon me. So, in other words, I also don't really believe in germ theory, what has everyone putting antibacterial scrubs and toxins all over their bodies all the time, and people living in a perpetual state of fear. I don't buy it. So I'm looking for some other people who don't. And I found this guy in this book, and it's time to read it. The Fallacy of the Germ Theory of Disease. So this is one of the many great chapters in this book, The Chemistry of Human Life by George Washington Carey in the year 1919. Here we go. The Fallacy of the Germ Theory of Disease. The true physician says, with Emerson, I will proclaim what I prove to be true today, though it contradict what I have advocated all my life. Do we try to use reason in figuring out any problem? Long ages of working for self-preservation have taught mankind that when a certain sensation is felt at the pit of the stomach, it is caused by hunger, and that if food is taken, the symptom will disappear. But the hungry one does not once think of a germ or microbe causing that gnawing sensation. He realizes intuitively that the human laboratory is sending out an SOS to let the owner know that it needs fuel for its furnace, and that given the fuel, combustion will at once begin and heat and energy will be furnished to run the human dynamo. At the same time, in this process of generating heat and energy, the mineral particles which are contained in the food will be set free, taken up by the absorbents and carried into the blood, the river of life, and distributed to all parts of the body. As this wonderful river flows through each tiny individual cell, a cell reaches out and actually selects from the stream the inorganic cell salt that it needs to rebuild that portion of itself, which has been destroyed in the continuous process of tearing down and building up. If each cell is furnished with material to replace that which is torn down, then there is no interruption of the orderly process of nature, and consequently there is perfect equilibrium. When we repair a house or any article of use, we select the same kind of material that was employed in its construction. Why should not this rule hold good when applied to the temple of God, the human body? When we stop to really think about it, does it seem unreasonable and absurd to give it poisons and drugs of any kind? No. Actual progress has been made in the definite cure of any disease. In surgery, however, which is mechanical in its operation, marvelous progress has been made. Take such a common disease as pneumonia, for instance. One is never sure whether the patient will live or die. If the symptoms do not cease, it is evident that the body has not been supplied with the proper material, else it would not be sending out signals, calling attention to itself. If the little cells of the body, in their reaching out to grasp from the blood that which they need, do not find it, they do not take anything. What is the result when a person cannot get food? We do not say he has caught hunger, that a certain germ has caused it, or that he can give it to another, or that another can catch it from him. But when the cells cannot get what they need, we say that the person has caught some kind of disease. Some microbe has entered the laboratory of the human body. Does it seem reasonable? What really occurs is this. The cells break down and disintegrate because there is nothing, or not enough material given to supply or replace the waste. As the functions are disturbed, this waste matter is not carried out of the body, but remains, clogging and poisoning the system. The little drain tiles, which carry off the excess moisture and the poisons of the body, are clogged, and the surplus heat and moisture cannot escape. Then fever, so-called, results. If these little vents of the human body are not soon restored to their normal function, the patient dies. Give a stove too much fuel and close all the drafts, and the fire will go out. A person who eats more than the body requires keeps the intestinal tract filled with fermenting food, just as a stove or furnace may be filled with clinkers, for there is not enough gastric juice to break it up and digest it. Auto-intoxication results and the intestinal tract is flooded with poison. Thus it is that such a person is always among the first to catch any so-called disease. We give the engines that run our machinery a great deal more intelligent care than we give the dynamo that runs the physical machinery. A good machinist spends much time over his engine. He uses reason and common sense and knows that if his engine is clogged with oil or dirt, it will not run easily and smoothly, and he cannot expect to get maximum power from it. Why should physical machinery differ in this respect from artificial mechanism? Instead of using reason and giving the physical furnace the right proportion and quantity of fuel, what do? We eat because it tastes good, a greater amount than we need, often suffering extreme discomfort. When an article of food spoils or a dead body part starts to decompose, we do not say that a germ or microbe caused it. We know that it was because of atmospheric conditions, but we do realize that flies and maggots are formed from the decaying mass, and if left alone will consume it and die. The flies and maggots did not come until there was dead, so-called matter present, for that is nature's method of removing it. There are many kinds of material in the human body, and each is used for a definite purpose. For instance, there is much fibrin, which is a constituent of the tissue of the body. This needs the inorganic cell salt, chloride or potassium, calimur, to combine with it and make it functional. If the system is deficient in this cell salt, the fibrin is not able to do its work, becomes non-functional, and if not carried off by any of the means which Mother Nature employs, it clogs the mechanism. Then we have a cough, or pneumonia sets in, or perchance we catch typhoid. The same thing causes it all, namely a deficiency in chloride of potassium. Microbes are found, yes, but they are the product of decaying matter. Away, often some secluded mountain home, one of the members of a family is taken with typhoid and dies. None of the others have it. If caused by a germ, what prevented the entire family from catching it? An intelligent understanding of the composition and the functions of the body will enable any one to interpret the signals or calls sent out and immediately supply the material that is lacking. One should understand that all things work together for good, that the amount of food should be regulated, plenty of rest, and the right amount of exercise be taken at the right time. Then a combination of the 12 cell salts found in the body should be taken systematically in order to supply the deficiency in the human laboratory. When the deficiency occurs, the patient, not being at ease, imagines that something must be the cause of the so-called pain, fever, or unrest. And in this, he is encouraged by the doctor, who coins a Latin or Greek word to give standing and personality to the myth. The condition of not at ease arises because the blood, not being perfectly organized blood, does not properly feed and nourish the nerves, muscles, and other tissues of the body, and then a call or dispatch is sent to the throne of understanding, asking that the lacking principle may be supplied. These words, asking for the workmen to build new tissues into the human organism, have, through the grossest ignorance, been given names in Latin or Greek, clothed with the tinsel of so-called scientific authority, and the people have been called upon to recognize and bow down in fear before the devils thus let loose. An irreverent writer not long ago said that the romances of the present day were written by scientists, and that Rider Haggard, with She and King Solomon's mines, was but a dabster in comparison. A short time ago, the homeopathic envoy said, "The march of science is preceded by an ever-increasing horde of Greek and Latin terms which stupefy the brain of the unscientific who seeks to comprehend them." Among the latest of these words to carry dismay to the learned and unlearned is phagocyte. Occasionally the editor of a daily paper is seen struggling with this foreigner, as though he knew all about him, and in late medical journals he may be seen stalking across the pages of some of the heavyweights. Of course, no one would display his ignorance by asking what sort of a thing a phagocyte is, so we will look up his pedigree in the lexicons. The word phagocyte is derived from the Greek phagion, to eat, and cytos, a hole or cavity, and really means an eater with capacity, a ravenous eater. But according to the scientific gentleman, a phagocyte is an eater of bacilli. Now, no doubt the grand idea becomes apparent. Turn the phagocytes loose in the system and let them run out the bacilli as ferrets run rats out of a barn. One learned editor of a great daily in the early days of lymph suggested that it was a phagocyte and discoursed most learnedly on the vast fields this new discovery of science opened up, and speculated as to whether each breed of bacilli had its own phagocyte, or whether one breed of phagocyte could sail in and wipe up the floor with the most ferocious bacilli. One question, however, has not yet been considered, and we respectfully suggest that science turn its light in that direction. After the pugnacious phagocyte has cleaned out the bacilli, what creature shall we turn loose in our insides to fight the phagocyte? For the benefit of those who wish to know what the phagocyte may be called upon to contend with, I will mention some of the latest discoveries in the realm of the microbe. Man's liver may be infested with the terrible Distomum hepaticum, while that of mutton suffers from Distonum lanceolatum. The rabbit whisks about with Coccidium oviform in his inwards, while man and cow both furnish habitation for the gentle Echinococcus polymorphus. Man alone seems to have the distinction of entertaining the aristocratic Bothriocephalus latus, in that freebooter of the highway, Ankylostamum duodenale. The sporting couple, Dochinus tringocephalus and Stenocephalus, seek the society of hunting dogs only. First cousins to these, but rather more aristocratic, are the brothers Sclerostom, Hypostostomum, and Tetracanthum, who ride in horses, while the dispertible family on whom all well-regulated microbes look down, that is, the Strongylocontortus, Phyllocolulus, Strigococcus, Retortiformis, dwell amidships in goats and such like plebeians. But the most noted of all is the musical Dochmius atenacaphalus, the intimate of the cat, which, as further research will no doubt reveal, must be the microbe of all attempts to reach high C. But Virchow's researches completely overthrow the germ or microbe theory and clearly prove that disease is caused by a lack of some constituent of the blood at the part affected and not by germs or bacilli. The human system can use its constituent parts only. The cells are not fed, they feed themselves. They reject what they do not need. It cannot be forced upon them except to the detriment or death of the body. Our vital forces are at once set to work to rid the system of anything and everything that does not belong to our organism and will not assimilate with blood, bone, muscle, or other tissues. Calomel, quinine, aconite, belladonna, salicylic acid, opium, and the 1,001 poisons used in the regular medical practice are not constituent parts of the blood, are not found in the human organism, and when taken into the system, set up their own action for the abnormal condition called disease and are worse than the disease itself. Calomel does not cure. It simply sets up a diarrhea in place of constipation. Opium does not cure. It simply causes paralysis of the nerve centers in place of neuralgia. Those who take poisons and yet recover do so in spite of both the disease and the drugs. The normal condition is restored through the natural processes. The so-called medicines have no part in the restoration. No improvement can be made on the human organism in this respect. The constituent parts of our bodies, when perfectly balanced, keep all in harmony. When an abnormal condition arises, harmony can be restored by restoring the balance, but not by introducing a poison into the system. The disease may be changed to one that manifests itself in a different manner, but the patient is not cured. The word poison has but one definition, that is, an agent which, when taken into the stomach or blood, produces either disease or death. Therefore, by no possibility can poison cure. When the microscope first revealed the fact that there is no inert matter, that all so-called matter is life in operation, even in the crystal and diamond, the scientists were frightened out of their wits. They saw God face to face, named him microbes, and tried to kill him with carbolic acid. But he that sitteth in the heavens laughed and had them in derision. Carbolic acid is one expression of omnipresent life. Microbes are another expression. Add the two and you still have the life. The true thing alone is orthodox, and no length of time can sanctify error. Not many years ago, the State Board of Health of Louisiana caused cannon to be fired in the streets of New Orleans, expecting the concussion to kill the germs of yellow fever. Later, the seers of medicine declared that mosquitoes were the sole cause of this disease. It is claimed by the adherents of the germ theory that so-called malarial conditions are caused by germs. Dry air cures ague. Cold weather cures ague. Sodium sulfate, natrum sulfuricum or sulfate of sodium, and third X1 of the cell salts of the blood cures ague. So then these must all be royal germ killers. No, they supply deficiencies. Ague is caused by an excess of water in the blood, and dry air, cold air is dry air, furnishes an extra amount of oxygen to the blood through the lungs and eliminates the excess of hydrogenoid gases or water. Sodium sulfate molecules eliminate an excess of water from the system. Each molecule has the chemical force to carry 2 molecules of water. No one ever has a Jew whose blood is properly supplied with sodium sulfate, no matter how many germs of malaria may assail him. The Homeopathic News published the following editorial on the germ theory in 1892. Quote, "It is to be hoped that no intelligent homeopathic believes in a microbic origin of disease. It may be a matter of interest to the physician to study the bacteriological accompaniments of a given malady, if the malady has any, but the idea that the fullest knowledge of the particular bacillus that may be found in the body of the subject of a given disease is of practical benefit to anybody is a mistake. For whether we empirically administer drugs hoping to cure disease, or prescribe experimentally for the destruction of a bacillus known to us microscopically, is all one. Give us a specific for cholera, and we care not whether our specific cures by destroying certain bacilli, or by producing blood changes, or in any other way. Where there is no guiding law for the cure of disease, it is all try, try, try. Let the cause within the organism be animal, vegetable, or mineral, known or unknown. But we do not believe that, if bacilli peculiar to certain maladies have been found, they are the cause of the diseased state that they accompany, any more than we believe that leaves on a tree are the cause of the existence of the tree. When a theory of the causation of disease is backed by names universally admitted to be as great as those that endorse the germ theory, intelligent men are willing to investigate it. This we have done most thoroughly, and we believe that theory to be erroneous from top to bottom and from first to last. We have never found a particle of evidence that bacilli have been discovered in the sense pretended by their discoverers. They have undoubtedly been faked, to a very great extent, beyond doubt, intentionally on the part of the chief promulgators of the germ theory. The medical profession cannot be blamed if its members very much doubt whether those gentlemen themselves believe in their own theory or in their own discoveries. We have learned to know that disease is not an entity, but a condition produced by deficiencies, and that germs are a product of these conditions and do not cause the conditions." This remark is frequently heard that the baby nursed its sore throat or bad cold from its mother. This statement is not only dogmatic and crude, but in the light of biochemistry is unscientific. The new pathology claims to be able to scientifically demonstrate the fact that so-called disease is simply a condition and not an entity that may be transferred from one to another. Therefore, the expression, "caught it from its mother," cannot be correct. But then the question arises, how shall certain facts be explained? No one will venture to deny that nursing infants are very liable to suffer from the same symptoms that manifest themselves in their mothers, and when we take issue with the race belief as to the modus operandi by which the condition of the mother appears in the child, it is meet that we should offer our reasons and suggest the true cause of the phenomena. In order to make the matter clear, I will offer an illustration. Suppose a child, say 5 or 6 years of age, should be fed on a certain kind of grain, known to be deficient in phosphate of lime, and should, as a consequence, suffer from the disease or condition known as rickets, rachitis, admitted by all schools to be caused by a deficiency of the lime salts of the blood. In such case, no one would maintain that the grain gave the child the rickets, or that it caught it from the grain, but rather that the grain, being deficient in lime, but not in albumin, furnished the blood with a sufficient quantity of organic matter, but not enough mineral or inorganic material to build up true bone structure. Now for the application. Before the mother or anyone else can have a cold or sore throat, there must be a deficiency in one or more of the inorganic cell salts or tissue builders of the blood. Let us suppose the salt that has fallen below the maximum to be potassium chloride, calimur, and as a consequence a certain portion of fibrin, not having a workman, molecules of calimur, to use, was thrown out by circulation and clogged the parotid gland or tonsils or other glands, or caused irritation to the membrane in nasal passages or larynx, bronchial tubes, or pleura, or clogged the air cells of the lungs. In such case, is it not reasonable to suppose the mother's milk would be deficient in the cell salt calimur, and that the child, in accordance with the law laid down above, would also suffer from the result of the deficiency, as did the mother? As to germs or bacilli or microbes, etc., they swarm throughout all nature. They are omnipresent life in operation. They adhere to membranes in unhealthy conditions, but do not affect healthy ones. Decaying organic matter produces microbes that exist while the process of decay goes on, feed upon it, and disappear with it, and return to the elements from which they were materialized. There is so much to unravel in that 7 pages, and its relation to today, in the present time we are in, is just absolutely ridiculous. It is so crazy when something at this point in time in our incredible advanced civilization, that something could still be a theory and actually be propagated amongst everyone and affect everyone. Kind of like the spherical ball theory and the moon theory and the Big Bang theory. I mean, they affect people in a way that's kind of more mental than anything, but this information affects people's health incredibly. And the fact that our generation, ever since for a long time that this has been going on, this corruption of the body intentionally, people are profiting on it. We live in a world now where people profit off this. Chemicals get shipped in huge trucks all over the country to go in baby food, everybody's food. There's cereal, preservatives that are toxic, natural flavors, all these disgusting things that go into our food to enhance the taste, make people continuously consume. And we're all grown up with the saying, you are what you eat, but nobody gets it. My parents' generation, they're about 70 now, and to try and get them to not order food from Walmart and to start getting organic food has been almost a 20-year process, and they still don't get it. It blows my mind. Some of the healthiest people I know, some doctors, amazing doctors, eat at McDonald's almost on a weekly basis. All these things just don't really make any sense, and they all kind of lead to more and more of this activity. How drinking destroys the gut, poisons the body. How all these chemicals just don't heal. They're actually probably designed for some other sinister intention, but people are convinced to inject them into themselves by fear, or so that they can have freedom, supposedly, which is God granted and no one can take away. And people are being convinced that all these chemicals are good. Oh, they help you. Oh, the side effects are minimal. They're nominal. Just take this in. Take it in. Nope. This is the real way you heal yourself. I fully believe in this, and I think you all should continue to research as well. There is so much more to learn always. Bless you all. Stay healthy forever.